Marjorie Taylor Greene is not going away. And that has become a real problem for Donald Trump. Because, as little credit as I'd like to give her, I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene reads the MAGA base far better than anyone else in the party right now. And she certainly posts in a way that resonates with the MAGA base more than anyone else. And that is precisely what she has just done, a post that is driving Donald Trump absolutely crazy because it lays out several of his various schemes, his criminal plans, his war plans, his plans to cover up the Epstein files. Marjorie is admitting all of it. But before we get to that, we need to start with the reason she is speaking up and sharing what amounts to a shocking yet damning and truthful assessment of what Donald Trump is currently doing. It all begins with what Rowana had to say about Donald Trump's plans for a possible strike on Iran, and what that has to do with the Epstein files. But first, let's get to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I have to say, my wag the dog antenna is up. Right? Donald Trump has lost face with the Supreme Court, and I feel like he sometimes keeps these things in his back pocket. And I'm worried that if there's an attempt to attack Iran, which is a murderous, dictatorial, horrible regime, it might happen for all the wrong reasons.
Well, he's lost the trust of the American people on the Epstein matter. He's lost with the Supreme Court on tariffs. He has a big State of the Union address coming up when he knows that the economy isn't working for most working class Americans. And so he puts out this threat. The problem is that striking Iran has real consequences. It has real consequences for our troops in the area. It has real consequences for our allies. And he ran on a promise to end these wars of choice. He ran saying we're not going to have regime change wars, and now he's betraying that promise.
Are you and Thomas Massie, what are you looking for here? Because there's value to having a debate about what should be done with Iran. As I recall, we had a deal with Iran that was working quite well until Donald Trump himself pulled us out of it, and that deteriorated matters. But this is for Congress to debate. We've got ourselves into wars in the past, on false pretenses. What are you aiming for?
Well, first of all, we should have that debate, right? Even George W. Bush, who took us into Iraq, and I disagreed with the Iraq War, took that matter to Congress and got an authorization to do that from Congress. What we are saying is, if you want to strike Iran, if you want to get us into another Middle East war, then you have to come to Congress and get the votes in the House and the Senate. The second thing, though, is why are we doing this? Why aren't we spending that money on our education, on our health care, on our building up our communities and our jobs? Why are we putting, again, billions of dollars into an overseas war that has not served this country well in the past?
Can we really just quickly dispense with the idea that Donald Trump was ever going to be the no new wars guy? And can we start pushing back on that a little more forcefully? Because I feel like every time I hear a Democrat, who isn't Rowana, talking about how Donald Trump wants to send Americans, send young men into a war, they say, well, Donald Trump can't attack Iran without asking Congress. And it's like responding with, well, maybe we should consider whether Americans actually want us to enter a pointless war. I think the answer is no. So maybe spend a little less time talking about the parliamentary procedures. And look, I get it. No, Donald Trump should not simply illegally attack whatever nation he feels like. Sure. But I think what concerns people a little more than congressional approval, again, important, is what the outcome is actually going to be. Even people like Joe Rogan, and I'm furious at him for this, are actually talking about...
It's overwhelming me. Like sometimes at nighttime, like I can't wind down.
Yeah.
It's just like there's too much news. Too much fucking madness. We're about to go to war with Iran.
I know.
Like everyone's eating beef jerky and pizza. Like what are these what the fuck is pizza?
I know.
You know, how far does this go? How come this never got released before? Like what?
Hey Joe, I need to address something real quick. I don't know if you have one of these, but there's this cool thing called a phone. In yours, you have the president's number, the vice president's number, and I'm sure the secretary of state's too. You can call them. If you can't sleep, first of all, you shouldn't have endorsed the guy. Say you're sorry and show some remorse. Second, pick up the phone, Joe. Get them on the line. Again, these people are insufferable. I am so tired of it. And that is exactly why what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, both about Donald Trump's war plans and how they connect to the Epstein files, rings so true and is driving Trump absolutely crazy. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted on Twitter sharing an old poll from Charlie Kirk's account that read, "Should the U.S. get involved in Israel's war against Iran?" Overwhelmingly, the answer was no. Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote, "This is what the real poll numbers on war with Iran looked like before all the bots swarmed Twitter. Americans do not support more foreign wars." Marjorie also responded to a post that read, "Trump's FDA backs away from plan to ban artificial colors in food." She wrote, "What level of chess is this?" Marjorie Taylor Greene then closed with an attack on both RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, saying the UK arrested Andrew over the Epstein files, and over here the president signed an executive order protecting cancer, causing glyphosate in our food supply. We've had 0 Epstein-related arrests or investigations since the files were released, and we're on the verge of going to war with Iran. This is the current state of MAGA and MAHA. Marjorie Taylor Greene has her finger on the pulse of MAGA. And I think you all know I'm probably not her biggest fan. I often feel her transformation is a little performative. It's certainly a little self-serving. It came very deliberately, very conveniently, right after Donald Trump said she couldn't run for higher office. And look, when you say, "Oh, Trump, oh, Mr. Trump, you're threatening me," and that's just, the political violence, I just can't stand it. Oh, God, our politics are so divided. Oh, no. Oh, no. And then Donald Trump says, well, quite frankly, I think we should shoot Mark Kelly in the street. And Jason Crow, too. Why not? We don't like them. And then you say nothing. It's really hard for me to buy your argument, Marjorie. And I don't. But she has her finger on the pulse. And I think she speaks in a language that is a little easier for the more apolitical, passive observer to understand. And I think it's the kind of thing we should be saying. I don't think we need to give Marjorie Taylor Greene credit for it. I just think it's a more direct and honest approach to communication than what we're seeing from a lot of Democrats who get lost in the weeds. And this doesn't have to be a conversation where we criticize Democrats because many of them are doing it well, and we have them on the show and talk about them on the show. But I just think we need to say it in plain terms. Donald Trump wants to go to war with Iran to distract from the Epstein files. And because Benjamin Netanyahu told him to, and we have a government staffed by people more focused on carrying out the Israeli government's orders than on making sure you have health insurance or can eat healthy food. That is the plain truth. Lindsey Graham is now coming out publicly saying, Donald, you shouldn't listen to your advisors, you should defy them, and you need to go to war with Iran. And why is Lindsey Graham saying that? Because he has absolutely nothing else going on in his life. Maybe his little Grindr account got suspended because he just doesn't photograph well. Maybe people reported the messages you were sending, Lindsey. Lindsey, you can't send those messages anymore. You just can't, Lindsey. So they had to report you. But Lindsey Graham does not represent South Carolina. You know how on C-SPAN they have R, South Carolina, next to a name? For Lindsey Graham, it would be R, Israel. He was just there last week saying, I proudly represent Israel as a U.S. Senator from South Carolina. What are you talking about? Half the roads in South Carolina are full of potholes. I love South Carolina. I genuinely do. I went to summer camp in South Carolina. I have many great friends who live there. One of them just got into medical school. Shout out to you, John, University of South Carolina. He's going there. I love it there. Cookout, you could not drag me away. But I think there are some nice investments we could be making in South Carolina to actually improve the state that Lindsey Graham would rather spend elsewhere, I don't know, on more weapons for Israel or wars on Israel's behalf. And I think Democrats should speak in terms this simple because people understand it at this point. And thank God Rowana does. And thank God he's talking about how the rest of the world can arrest its Epstein class so we can too. He talked about that and much more with Jen Psaki. And that's where I want to end.
And I've got to say, the British people are showing us the way. I mean, they have held Mendelssohn accountable. They're holding a government, a left government in the UK accountable. They're holding someone who was a former prince accountable. How about we have some accountability here in the United States? How about we have Howard Lutnick resign? How about we have investigations to the other people in the Trump administration filled with the Epstein class? How about we have hearings here for any person who has emails showing that they went to Epstein's island? The reality is Comer wants to make this a political witch hunt, whereas what we really need is for bipartisan hearings on people who are part of this Epstein class.
No question about it. I was struck. I played this a little bit earlier, and you were there yesterday, and the video was just released today, of course, as we started the show talking about. But Les Wexner seemed to spend the majority of yesterday's deposition claiming ignorance. What did you make of that?
Well, I was back in my district, but I really admire Robert Garcia's leadership and the members who were there. The biggest thing that came out of this is that the FBI and the Department of Justice has not investigated Les Wexner. With all his ties to Epstein, he has never had a phone call from the FBI or from the DOJ. And the fact that there was not a single Republican there shows how political they've made this. I mean, just because Les Wexner is a donor to Republican candidates, they decide that they don't need to show up. I have said that whether this implicates Democratic donors, Republican donors, Democratic officials, it doesn't matter. This is about justice for the survivors.
I always think you're there because you're in the middle of most things. But thank you for that correction. And people can watch the video out there as well. It's available publicly. Let me ask you about something that I thought was weird, especially since there were no Republican members there. There was a watermark, like a GOP watermark on this video that was released, even though they didn't show up. The members didn't show up. What was that about? And did you find that to be bizarre?
I did. I don't know if they wanted to show that they were there. But just like I corrected the record, Jen, with you, in this day and age, telling the truth is pretty basic. And usually you will get caught if you don't. Even if you don't have the morality to tell the truth, everything is on social media. It's easily verifiable. And the reality is they could have just said they didn't show up, but they tried to do this watermark, I think, to show that they were there.
This is how Democrats should sound. It's the only way Democrats should sound. It's the only approach that actually makes sense to people. And it's simply how we should be having these conversations. That doesn't mean we need to give Marjorie Taylor Greene credit for it. Doesn't mean we need to say, she should just be a Democrat. No, I don't think that. But I do think we need to speak in these very plain terms, because what is happening right now is very simple. It's alarming. It's criminal. But it is very clear what Donald Trump is doing. And that's exactly why we need to address it on this show. I can promise you we will do that here every single day. If you'd like to support that, you can hit the subscribe button as always. Leave a like on this video, and if you've stayed until the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting, everyone. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, we'll see you then.